The Cawood Castle Garth, or the garden of the Archbishop of York's palace, holds several historical secrets. It's one of the very few medieval gardens to survive, and is considered by some archaeologists to be more important than the remains of the palace. The Garth is scheduled by English Heritage, and disturbance of the ground is strictly controlled. In 2007, the Cawood Castle Garth group were given permission by the Secretary of State for Media and Culture to take several core samples to investigate beneath the surface. The results of the core sampling encouraged the group to get permission to do some archaeological excavations. The group wanted to know more about the New Cut, a large moat-like structure which runs the length of the south side of the Garth. Was it a garden water feature, or was it connected to the Bishop Dyke, a medieval canal bordering the west side of the Garth, and maybe part of a small port? And at the other end, was it continuous with the remains of the moat which runs at the Broad Lane end of the Garth? Permission was given to dig 6 pits, each of 1 metre square. On July the 14th, 2008, under the guidance of the community archaeologist John Kenny from the York Archeological Trust, the group, with the aid of volunteers, gathered on the Garth.
We're going to do 3 out of the 6 test pits, so they're only 1 metre by 1 metre, so they're very small. One of the questions involves the other end of the cut. We need to put in a pit up there just to see whether or not there's any evidence for the new cut going through into the Bishop's Dyke, or I suppose more likely any evidence for the new cut not going into the Bishop's Dyke. We want to put one in almost where we're stood somewhere, I think, because we want to try and investigate the backfilling of the new cut at this point, really just to see if we can recover any dating evidence from this sort of spur of stuff in the yellow there. Then the slightly more complicated one, but potentially quite exciting one, is in fact up on the top of the bank of upcast that's come out of the new cut. But then you've also got our rectangular feature next to the new cut there, which is where all theories are still open on really of what it is. So I guess the thing to do is start with these 2 down here really. When it's a commercial exercise, you know, they'll be expecting to get through quite a lot of these, and you get through a few of them in a day, but we'll go a bit slower than that.
John instructed the volunteers on how to start their dig.
About that much.
Oh, right. So you're not actually digging deep then?
I'm glad you're not doing 6 screws. That's all nettles, that is, that yellow. We need to give ourselves a site code. CCGG?
That's what we call ourselves.
We'll call this trench number 1. So everything that comes out of here starts with 1,000. Now layer 1,000 in here is really the topsoil. What I'm starting to do now is I'm just trying to get the loose stuff off the top, and I'm trying to keep the sides nice and neat, so we start to neaten up the sides. There's a little bits of brick and tile that now we might say to ourselves, okay, there's tons of brick and tile, but at the moment, yeah, where those little bits are popping out, let's hang on to them for the moment. We're on this point now trying to select a spot to put a test pit in, and the reason that we're here is because we have 2 features that actually cross over each other. We have upcast material along the edge of the new cut coming down this way, and we have a horseshoe shape, or slightly square horseshoe shape of bank coming round that comes right through and rides up over the top of the upcast. So the plan here is to try and kill 2 birds with 1 stone. What we want to do is we want to dig our way down through the bank, the material that's making up the bank on the square horseshoe shaped feature, down into the bank of upcast, and then down hopefully onto the actual layer at which the new cut was cut into. What we're doing now is we're just cleaning things up and starting to excavate using the classic archaeologist's tool, which is a trowel. It's a pointing trowel. This one's worn down a little bit now, but we scrape using this side of the trowel here, and we scrape away the surface, trying to leave a nice clean visible surface underneath. It does seem like there's a slight change in colour as we go a bit deeper here. I don't want to start digging away the yellow stuff yet, because that's our next layer.
It is important to survey the digs to measure the relative levels of each layer.
Now, the reason I'm just checking this bench out is I want to use it as a temporary benchmark. That means that we have a spot that we have consistently throughout the week, throughout the excavation, that we can use to take measurements and work out the relative height of any particular place on the site that we want to. To do that, we'll use a level, and I just need to set the level up now. Okay. Right, that's 1.21.
With the top layer removed from the first two holes, the amateur archaeologists made their initial attempts at surveying. John recorded their measurements.
We've taken away the topsoil in 2 different trenches, and we're now starting to excavate the material that's underneath them. So that's 4 layers already that we're dealing with. So far we've recorded 1 of those layers, so I need to get on and make sure that we've recorded all 4 of them. Otherwise we're getting behind with the recording process, and that's disaster in archaeology. If you don't actually keep up with your recording, then you're digging stuff away, not recording it, and it'll never be seen again. So we need to make sure we get on with the recording.
Another important part of the dig is to make a photographic record of each stage of the process. On the second day of the dig, we found that the mole had tried to fill in pit number 2. It was also the day when children from Cawood school came to see what was going on. To get them involved, they washed some of the find.
I think I've almost finished it. I think I have. We found bones. We found a bone!
There was a little disappointment that the animal bones found weren't human. In hole number 2, a keen volunteer, then later an experienced excavator, joined the team, and the hole developed with a little more speed. They soon uncovered a couple of roof tiles, as well as a very fragile swan mussel. John Kenny and Margaret Brearley, secretary of the Garth group, went to decide where to put pit 3.
Yeah, this is the right sort of spot to be, really.
Yeah.
I would put something about here, because it's right in the middle of where the dike would come through, if, where the cut would come through if it does connect to the dike. If this has never been connected, then it's possible that underground there's a lump of the old natural soils and sands and all that sort of thing.
A good heel marks the spot ready for tomorrow's dig. Day 3 saw the opening of pit number 3. Immediately, a large mixture of finds were revealed. This made for slow progress in digging down. There was a mixture of pottery and animal bones. Meanwhile, progress on the other 2 pits continued with new volunteers. Pit 2 produced more interesting pottery and shells.
Don't make that hole any bigger.
Let me over.
there. Okay.
See you soon.
See you tomorrow.
At the end of each day, the finds were washed and sorted.
Promised to be home.
Do you want your plastic bags and stuff on?
Oh, yes, please, yeah.
I left you a message last night.
Oh, bless her. Look, it took come in with a big bag.
It's probably medieval, though, but it might be, you know, late.
In that hole.
Can all these smaller bits go in with that lot as well?
Day 4 was wet, but the digging continued with enthusiasm.
It's a slightly different colour. This is a different texture. Yeah, it's more, the more those. It's harder. Sort of slightly different.
Let's see my back aches.
So now when I've got this sort of this loose stuff now, it's the idea that I sort of then get rid of that into a bucket like this. Is this one of these rust bits that might be a plant sort of thing?
It might be.
Eric Foster, the local freelance photographer, came along to record the event for the local newspapers.
Can you push it slightly forward, please? Just, we can't just see less good looking, but different hair.
Oh, we're all wet.
Look into me, right. That's fine, lovely, that's lovely.
Well, I thought I'd found a piece of metal piping and was told it was bone. Oh. So, shows how much I know.
Like a plate, isn't it? Because it's got the glaze on the curve. Pottery.
It's a bit of medieval pottery.
Oh, medieval. Oh, that'll do.
Yeah, medieval will do.
I'll settle for medieval.
Well done.
Yes.
So it's green glaze on both sides. So slightly later medieval, I think that makes it.
Pit 1 seemed to have reached the water table.
Shell frags frequent actually.
Yeah.
There has been some activity down here. We've got pieces of what looks like brick coming through. There's pieces of charcoal. So there's been some activity of some sort. It's not just inert soil. Which means that I've got to keep on digging. And that's a piece of pottery. I always find charcoal on it. Like that. Quite a big chunk of charcoal.
How's it going?
I'm finding little pieces of shell,
Okay.
a piece of pot, scattered charcoal,
Yeah.
and very tiny fragments of shell.
What's interesting is the layer above it had virtually nothing in it,
Yeah.
apart from a bit. So it's as if they've managed to get some very, you know, they've dumped some quite clean sand, and now you're just coming into something with a little bit more evidence of human activity in it.
Looking at the texture of this, it's a mottled texture with sandy bits in it.
Yeah.
I'm tempted to think it might be a flood dispersal of charcoal and bits of
Oh
stuff.
right, yeah.
Friday afternoon and the first of the pits is backfilled.
There's a wealth of stuff in this, isn't there? It is typical rubbish pit.
Yeah.
It's what archaeologists love, really, because we've got so many fun things in it. I think from the stuff that's coming out,
It just shows it's been tipped in.
I think that it's a big tip
Yeah.
of stuff. At least we've got, you know, 50 centimetres down here, and it's still Victorian filling in. So possibly that's suggesting that it's that they're filling it in because it's sumping down here, and they want to backfill it again. So, you know, if we don't find any natural here, which is probably going to be the case, it leaves open the possibility that the two were linked. So it's 3 layers in here really: topsoil, charcoal, and then the mixture of clay and sand that contains a lot of brick and a lot of quite recent finds of, well, Victorian, Georgian, and maybe and some medieval pottery as well, so it's come in as a real hodgepodge from somewhere, and being used to level up this area along the side of the Bishop's Dyke and next to the new cut.
It's time for John to summarise the week's work.
So starting with number 1 at the bottom there, which is the one where we finished up in the bog, we went down through a number of levelling layers there, so it's clear that that causeway has been built up over the years. There's probably at least 2, if not 3, phases of that levelling up. 2 that were very clayey and 1 that was very sandy right on the top. It's possible the sandy one was the last time it was done. They dug down into the new cut for the material to do that, and actually found themselves going through the bottom of the clay at the bottom of the cut, or silt or whatever at the bottom of the cut, and actually digging into natural sands. I'd say we have answered our question, and that we're fairly happy that causeway has been built up. It's pretty clear anyway from what we've done that it has been filled in that corner. I think that we have managed to identify stratigraphy in the pit on top of the banks, and that'll be very interesting to see, whether we've actually got the full gamut of the 2 banks and also a subsoil underneath it. And we've got some pottery out of the subsoil, so maybe we'll be able to make a stab at dating the subsoil if the pot comes from all the same period, I think. But it's only small frags, so let's not get too hopeful. I think we succeeded in what we set out to do there quite well. The trench here, which we only opened up on Wednesday, there was quite a lot of, it was quite complicated at the beginning because there was an awful lot of dumping of an awful lot of material. So we worked quite carefully around a lot of stones, a lot of rubble, and divided up into 3 contexts. And then I think once we dug through it and we looked at it in the side, we realised it was just one context that was a fairly major levelling dump. And so this area, at least down 50 centimetres, about at the depth we were down, has been built back up in around, say, 20 years either side of 1900, something like that, by the fines, I think. But again, we'll have a look at the fines. So why they had to level it up, I don't know. Was it subsiding slowly over the years because there is a filled-in ditch underneath here? Don't know.
Finally, pit 3 is filled in. All that is awaited now is the experts' opinions on the various bits and pieces found in the 3 pits.